Hey everyone, Mark Valentini again with PHCC Legislative Affairs. Just want to take a moment to again clarify some of the provisions in the Families First Corona Response Act, or FFCRA, what I've previously referred to as Phase 2 legislation that was passed by Congress about a week and a half ago in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It includes some paid leave provisions for your employees that you need to be aware of. And so I thought that this flow chart that I put together would perhaps help a little bit in understanding what your responsibilities are as employers. So we'll start with the big question. Number one, does your business employ 500 or less employees? I would venture to guess that that would be 99.9% of PHCC members. Therefore, these provisions are most likely going to apply to you. The next question, are you considered essential? As you know, PHCC and its industry partners have been advocating vigorously to ensure that HVAC and plumbing contractors are considered essential infrastructure employers that need to stay on the job when these quarantine orders are being issued on a state-by-state basis. In addition, just so you know, the Department of Homeland Security has issued updated guidance over the weekend clarifying that HVAC is indeed considered essential critical infrastructure workforce. And most of the states have been getting it right with classifying HVAC and plumbing as essential. So if for some reason you're not essential and your state imposes a mandatory stay-at-home order, then you will be on the hook for 2 weeks of paid leave at $511 per day or $5,110 max for quarantined employees that have to stay home because of a state or local mandate. And so the way you're going to calculate that is that if you have full-time employees, it's going to be based on a 40-hour work week. Part-time employees, the way that's calculated is you're going to take the average hours of work performed over a 2-week period, and you're going to base your paid leave on that. So next big question is, do you have an employee that is sick or symptomatic of COVID-19? And if that's the case, they're going to need to stay at home, and they will be entitled to up to 2 weeks of paid leave at 2/3 their salary, not to exceed $511 per day or $5,110 in aggregate over that 2-week period. Next big question, do you have an employee that needs to care for a loved one? That means if you have an employee whose parents are elderly and at high risk of contracting the virus, or if they have close family members that are that have compromised immune systems and they can't leave home because they're at high risk, and therefore that employee needs to stay home to care for those people, they too would be entitled to up to 2 weeks paid leave at 2/3 their salary, this time not to exceed $200 per day or $2,000 in the aggregate over that 2-week period. So the next big question, and this is the big question, do you have employees whose kids are out of school? Because the COVID-19 pandemic had forced state and local governments to shut down the school system indefinitely, or at least for the rest of the school year, those employees will be entitled to up to 12 weeks of paid leave at 2/3 their salary, not to exceed $200 per day or $10,000 over that 12-week period. So the next question, to follow up on the paid leave for kids home from school, does your business employ 50 or less people? And if the answer is no, then this provision is going to apply. If the answer is yes, you may be able to file for an exemption from this particular provision if you can demonstrate that your business of 50 or less employees will be burdened to the point that your business is at risk of failing for having to fulfill this requirement. So otherwise, the next question you probably have is, what am I going to do? So you have some decisions to make. These provisions go into effect on Wednesday, April 1st. So Congress has addressed this through the CARES Act, which is the bill that was passed on Friday and signed by the president. It makes emergency small business loans available to all businesses that are directly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what it does, it cuts a lot of red tape that you would otherwise encounter when applying for a small business loan, waives most paperwork requirements to apply for an emergency business loan. It expands eligibility of lenders. So if there's a bank that offers small business loans that are within SBA guidelines, they are automatically authorized to process these loans. These loans are not to exceed $10 million or 2.5 times monthly payroll, whichever is smaller. So if you are running a business with a monthly payroll of $100,000, you will be eligible for a maximum loan of $250,000. At 4% interest, which is deferred for 6 months. There's no collateral necessary, nor is there a requirement to first apply for other loans at other institutions, like you would be under any other circumstance when it comes to applying for an SBA loan. And the best part about it is that the amount for most of the overhead expenses that you would take this loan for would be forgiven from the loan balance. So this includes any lease or mortgage payments that you have on your office, and more importantly, any paid leave that you pay out under the FFCRA provisions that I outlined here. So the idea is that the loans would be processed expeditiously within 2 weeks. So there you have it. Like I said, I imagine you have some decisions to make. So you're highly encouraged to consult with legal counsel and to determine your best options. So until then, please stay safe, stay healthy, stay vigilant, and God bless.